Hey everyone, Matt Straub here hanging out with the Rotoworld basketball crew. NBA draft season is upon us. We are here getting you ready for your fantasy drafts. And we're going to start talking some draft strategies, fellas. I'm with Tommy Beer, Ryan Knauss, Steve Alexander. Steve, we'll start with you. What is your overarching big picture draft strategy?
Well, I think you got to take the best player available whenever you can. The one caveat being point guard is really thin this year. So you got to get a point guard in the first 2 or 3 rounds or you're going to fall behind. But outside of that, I'm not really focused on positions. I'm not going to get a small forward instead of a shooting guard. I'm just going to get the best player available every time I can until I start to see holes I need to fill.
All right, let's take a look at the best players available as you start your draft right now. Kind of a consensus top 5. This is actually points league-based scoring, guys. So that's for people playing points leagues. If you're playing in 9-category leagues, it's a different story. Do either of you guys, Ryan or Tommy, buy into this best player available strategy? Is that how you guys approach it?
I like it. I'm typically point guards for sure I look for, not so much for the positional scarcity, but more assists. It's really hard to find an assist specialist. We don't even talk about that because they barely exist. So I like to load up on my assists early, take care of the point guard position. There's basically a desert for point guards in the middle round, so I definitely do that. I'm also games played. So when you define best available, part of that has to be how durable are they? So a guy like Karl Anthony Towns has missed 5 games his entire NBA career, really not injury prone. So I typically target guys like that who are durable. We know Anthony Davis has some injury history, so that's pretty much where I'm looking.
So you're staying away just point blank from Anthony Davis based on that?
Potentially, because if I have the #1 pick, I'm taking Karl Anthony Towns. If AD is there at 3, I don't think I could pass him up, but yeah.
Yeah, I understand the strategy. I understand both Steve and Ryan are coming from. I approach it a little bit different perspective. I think something we'll talk about today and we'll talk about throughout the year is load management. You know, it's an undeniable reality in today's NBA. I think it's going to impact teams and players from the first round to the 15th round. It's just one of those things that we're going to have to address sooner rather than later. So my kind of perspective on it is I'm less worried about guys that may potentially be injured and miss a week here or miss a week there. A catastrophic injury, that's obviously going to tank your season. But the Kevin Loves of the world, the Danilo Gallinaris of the world, typically, we're going to bump those down in our rankings a little bit because of their injury-prone history. I think with there's just an article recently posted in The Athletic the other day. Jokic might get, typically a little more, DNPs than used to. Even Jamal Murray, a young 23-year-old point guard. I think that teams have seen, Kawhi Leonard kind of set the standard, keep me fresh for the playoffs, and you will reap rewards. So for that reason, I think it's going to kind of, get players closer. I don't think you're going to see nearly as many 80-game players. You're going to see more in the 75 range. So if I have a player that misses 12 games due to injury, maybe he's not as damaging because even the top players, the best players, are going to miss 4 or 5, 6 because of rest.
So it's almost like while everyone is obsessing about games played, you see that as opening a door for you to get good value on players.
Exactly.
I take that more later in the drafts. Like you mentioned, Kevin Love, Danilo Gallinari. Gallo was on a lot of my teams last year because he was going outside the top 100.
Exactly.
I do tend to worry more about guys like Kawhi and Paul George, who, if they come into the season with those DNP risks, I want to minimize it at the top of the draft. Then I'm willing to take a little more shots down the way.
Agree. We were actually just talking about it before. I think we're all very cautious about Paul George. Middle of second round, maybe end of the second round, we'll consider it third round, somewhere there. But you have a guy that's most likely entering the season missing a month is a very, very scary proposition.
So I would almost put my draft strategy in between the two of you guys. I would label it as 60% crazy. I don't think you're going to win your league being the most cautious guy in the draft room, and I don't think you're going to win it being the most reckless. So I would err on just on the far side of reckless.
What's the other 40%?
40% is like, don't be afraid to take safe guys. I mean, I'll take Al Horford, for example, all day, because that's a guy, he does feel like kind of old, and he's been around forever. He's a boring pick, but a phenomenal value, I think, where you get him. So I'll mix in some Al Horfords into my drafts room. Where do you land on all this?
Well, in following in Michael Gallagher's footsteps, Rotoworld legend, I'm not drafting anyone under 30 if I can help it. Like
over 30.
I mean, anyone over 30. I want young guys.
Shocked me for a second there. Whoa, this is
Got
a hot
my
take.
over and under confused there. I don't want anybody over the age of 30 on my team this year.
Yeah, see, I'm more with Tommy on that because I feel like you're cutting off a whole pool of players who might be value. So especially if you're going for the best value available on the board when you draft, I don't think I'm going to just off the top eliminate those.
I think too often and this happens in every fantasy football, baseball, you want to make a pick that the crowd goes, you sniped me. I wanted that dude, whereas if I take Joe Ingles, nobody's going to be like, but that's a solid guy. You build your foundation. He's probably going to stay healthy, contribute across all 9 categories. It may not win the room, and you may not, but at the end of the day, you may win a fantasy championship.
Right. The guy who wins the room, though, who wins the draft room, I don't think that guy usually wins the league.
Exactly.
Win it a couple times. Win it a couple times.
A couple hype guys.
Right. Some hits, some miss, but.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. For Around the Clock, NBA news, rumors, injury reports, depth chart changes, analysis, and more, go to rotoworld.com/NBA.